Well, hey everybody, good evening. Welcome into this first ever generally public YouTube live stream here on the Midlife Pilot page. My name is Chris, the Midlife Pilot, and I'm so thankful that you're here and taking a few minutes to just hang out tonight, talk about aviation, and see what's been going on. So if you're just joining us here, getting in now into the chat, be sure you say hello. We'd love to know you're here. Also, where you're watching from tonight, and we'll be going through this chat all night long to get topics of conversation, answer questions, and all of that. So thank you so much for being here. A couple of housekeeping items before we get started. If you are a patron and are in here, I know at least one is here with us tonight. That's a patron on our channel. This tonight's live stream does not take the place of our monthly kind of intimate Google Meet hangout that we'll be having next week. This is kind of in addition to. So keep that in mind. Also, I wanted to mention we'll be giving away one of our fancy new Midlife Pilot T-shirts to someone in the chat here coming up a little bit later on tonight. These shirts are new. We also have some new vinyl clings and some other things, perks that are available for some of our patrons at various tiers over at patreon.com/midlifepilot if you want to check that out. We're building a kind of cool community over there with a lot of additional content, some full-length flights of all the videos we post and that kind of thing. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, check it out. It's there for you. Let me just take a peek at the chat and see who all has come in. There's Nick. Hi, Nick. Sean is here as well. Okay, there's some new folks that have come in. Awesome. Couple quick updates on things that have been going on. I've been really busy. We started a flying club here recently in Fairmont with 3852 Lima. I actually put this club together. The plane was going to become unavailable. The owners were no longer going to rent it about the same time I was getting my private certificate in the beginning of September. And I worked out a really, really great arrangement with them. We're leasing the plane from them. We've got a 12-member already flying club here at Fairmont that we've put together. That's going to be a really cool thing. You'll be hearing more about that in upcoming videos on the channel. Let's see what else. Latest video posted, I guess, last week was our little family flight sightseeing trip. We've got some other exciting fall trips, some longer ones planned, including potentially some into the southeast of the U.S., which could be kind of exciting, and we'll be keeping you posted on those. And two more quick notes, and then we'll start jumping into some of the chat questions. Hoping to do some really cool upgrades here on technology for the channel. I know Jonah was asking a little bit ago. We'll talk about some of the how to make the video stuff in a little bit. We're going to make some camera upgrades hopefully in the next month or so and start delivering all these channel videos in 4K, which we're very, very excited to be able to finally be doing some upgrades there. We're going to be working to produce at least 3 channel videos per month, every month. And so that's exciting stuff for the channel. And then finally, with regards to the airplane, in the next 90 days, it is going in the shop for a pretty big avionics upgrade. We're getting a couple of Garmin G5 instruments, our attitude indicator, and an HSI. And we're also putting in a Garmin GNC 355 touchscreen GPS into our Cessna 172. Steve wants me to come to Boston. That's also on the short list, buddy. As soon as we can get up there, we will. All right, so let's jump into this. There's no format really for this. I'm just kind of going through the chat. I'll be looking through for some questions and topics of discussion. So let's see what we've got. So we'll start further up the list. Jonah had said, I'd love to hear about GoPro usage, gear settings, and post-production tools. So yeah, it's pretty basic right now. I have a whole mishmash of cameras. Let's start with that. The action cams that I have on the plane currently. I have a whole mishmash of various generation GoPros. So the newest one we have is a GoPro Hero 5 Black. That is the camera that you normally see that's above my head looking out the front of the airplane. And then I have a couple of older GoPro Hero 3s, believe it or not. That's the pilot cam that's facing us, and also the camera that we mount outside on the wing. And those are shooting in 1080, still 1080p. So I shoot all of them. I had been shooting them all at 30 frames per second. I'm changing over when I go to 4K here as well. Everything's gonna be 24p just because of I like the look of that. So everything else we do in our video production business is we do mostly at 24 frames per second. So we're gonna switch to that. Anyway, so those are the three primary cameras, and then I bring all that footage in. Later, I record audio separately onto I have a Zoom H4n audio recorder, and it sits on the back seat of the airplane, and it records 4 channels simultaneously. So it uses its built-in mics. I use that for a stereo, just like ambient audio of the airplane, and then I take a 1/4 inch out of the headphone, one of the headphone places in the back seat, the headset positions, and record that into a line input on the H4n. Bring that all in to Final Cut Pro 10 on my Mac, create a multicam clip where I line up all those angles, to synchronize them in time, and then from there the edit process is a little more in depth. I'll probably have to do a whole video tutorial on the steps that go into that, because there's a lot of audio things that are involved. There's color correction, trying to make the cameras match because they're all so different. So I'm moving from that setup. I'm moving to I looked around at the DJI Osmo action cameras. Those are nice, but I'm sticking with the GoPro family, and I'm not going all the way to 9. I don't need it. We're probably going to pick up a handful of GoPro 8s and just switch everything to that here coming up. 9 is a great camera. I mean, there's tons of enhancements. I mean, the image stabilization is incredible. The front screen, front-facing screen is really nice. Battery life is better. I mitigate the battery issue, by the way. Inside the plane, I use a big battery brick, a USB battery brick under the back seat. All the interior cameras have power wired to them inside, and I'm looking at a new piece, which I'll do a video about, that's actually going to use my wing. I'm going to move the wing cam to an inspection port on the wing and actually wire that into the 14-volt nav light with my AMP wheel. Obviously, I won't do that. So they'll have a powered exterior camera as well. All right, so that is the short of production. Mike Alpha Sierra says, just bought the Hero 9. Be aware to connect an external mic. You need the new media mod. Cannot use the weird 3.5mm adapter. The wire. Yeah. Okay, that's good to know. That's a short bit on production. Let me scroll down through here and see what else has come in. Jared wants to know, when are you going to knock out that instrument? Well, valid question. I'm just going to enjoy flying VFR for a little bit, I think. Get a little bit of time and just kind of chill for a little bit. But the new flying club that we started with 5.2 Lima, definitely, and with the new upgrades, with the GPS that's coming in and all that, it's going to be a pretty nice IFR trainer and very reasonably priced. We've managed to get the club rates. Monthly dues are $75 a month, and our dry rate for the airplane is $48 an hour dry. So it's going to be a real it's going to be a really good value. I definitely do want to get my instrument, but I'm not in a huge hurry to jump right in and start. Let's see, chat question. Have you looked at procuring your own aircraft or sticking with your current airframe? If you could have any aircraft, what would it be? Certified versus experimental, ever considered a tailwheel? Those are all great questions. Yeah, so at this point, my wife and I just bought a building, in fact, the building that I'm in last year. So we're not in a huge hurry to jump into an additional ownership of really anything at this moment, which is really why I got the club started. So we're going to probably do that for a little while. The club took off so fast, we're going to be real soon having to think about adding a second airplane, at least, to the club as well. My dream airplane at the moment would be a Mooney M20, I think, for speed and efficiency purposes, although I've talked to a handful of people that don't like the comfort level for taller, larger people. So I need to fly one a few times and get a feel for that, but I have no problem with experimental airplanes. All of the van stuff, like the RV stuff, is pretty awesome, and I would ultimately like to fly a tailwheel and learn, but I give Tyler, my instructor, I give him grief all the time. I said, I can barely manage the rudder on my little 172 nose wheel airplane at 70 hours, so I need to spend a little bit more time in a tricycle plane before I start thinking about tailwheel. Sean just made those upgrades in his planes, two G5s. Yeah, the GPS 175 and GFC 500 autopilot. We looked at the autopilot too. We looked at that too, and that's hopeful down the road. We also would like to put an engine monitor in. The engine in that airplane is a Continental 0300. It's an 1800 hour TBO. The engine has 1,000 hours, but here's the crazy part. The last overhaul on that engine was 37 years ago. So before the club leased the plane, we asked the owners to do a oil analysis and a bore scope and some new compression tests. The oil analysis was beautiful. Bore scope was completely normal, and the compressions, every cylinder of that 6-cylinder engine were 74 or better on compressions after 37 years since an overhaul. So really, really good. Hey, Sean. Yes, Sean. I should have also introduced Sean as Patron Sean as well. Patron Sean. Thank you for being here and for your support. Scott wants to know, can you talk about your check ride? Yeah, oh, I'd love to. Fears going in, preparation, etc. 30 days out for yours. That's awesome, Scott. I was tremendously apprehensive. If you followed the channel during I really should have probably taken my check ride last summer, but I got in my head a lot about everything. And I've had I've had a month and a half or so to reflect on the check ride experience now. And here's what I think. I think there's just something that is it's almost mythical about being a pilot. I felt inadequate and unprepared, and like I didn't belong in that role. And I think that was a big part of then that just kind of trickled down to every little thing, every maneuver, every landing. It was, nothing was good enough ever. And I think you get in your head about some of that. I prepared for my check ride for the oral portion. I spent a lot of time in just that little blue book. In fact, I should have brought all that stuff with me tonight. I'm going to give away some of my materials to somebody else who needs them. But it was the little blue oral exam book. I went through it a lot. I tabbed out my FAR aim like crazy. My examiner really appreciated the amount of detail that I took in the airplane logs in terms of tabbing everything he's going to look for. I did all my research on my own on the ADs for the airplane and verified it with my MP. I should have spent more time studying weather, and by that I mean the weather charts and various tools that are available officially from aviationweather.gov. I struggled a little bit in the check ride with some of the symbology and some of the things on some of the more obscure charts. So I would say spend more time than it may be a strong suit for you, but it wasn't for me. So maybe spend a little bit of time on the weather. So I was concerned. I was more concerned, I think, about the flying than the oral. The oral was better than I expected it to be. My examiner was very fair, wasn't trying to fail me. You could just tell that he wanted me to succeed and kind of help me through the whole process. It ended up being a very short oral. I think we were 50 minutes, maybe an hour, start to finish. And then for the check ride, I was very apprehensive. I was spent a lot of time thinking about needing to do every maneuver and be in the exact parameters for every single thing that he was going to ask me to do. And I was worried about remembering my clearing turns and all the things you hear that are the gotcha items. So I went into it kind of thinking that, and before we even got in the plane for the flight portion, the examiner said to me, he did the briefing, and he said, he basically gives a standard, pre-flight briefing, but then he said, don't worry about any clearing turns. I'm going to tell you headings to turn to, and we're going to count those as clearing turns. So you never have to worry about doing a clearing turn. And so I was thinking about all kind of things, as we took off, even on the very first takeoff, the normal takeoff, I was asking him questions about things coming up. And he basically said to me, why don't you stop thinking about all of the details of these maneuvers? Why don't let's just go for a flight? And so we did. I mean, we went through all the stuff in the ACS, obviously, but he every step of the way was encouraging me to just enjoy it. He said, if you notice me over here not talking, it's not because you're doing anything wrong. It's just I'm enjoying flying with you today. And the whole trip was like that. I busted a few things that could have easily been, I mean, if you wanted to go buy the book, you could pick any one of those out and say, well, you missed this thing. I was more than 100 feet of change in altitude on my steep turn, or, this other thing happened. But I verbalized a lot of what I was doing. If I noticed I was close to the threshold of something, I said it out loud, and it was fine. I think at the end of the day, what the examiner is really looking for is that you're competent, you understand how to fly the airplane, and that you're not going to get yourself into trouble. And I think if you can demonstrate that you're a safe pilot, I think that goes a long way, and that you're comfortable in the airplane and know what you're doing. So let's see. What do we got here? How much training is left after you do your first solo? I just did my first solo last week. Congratulations. Is it sod? Am I saying I'm going to blow that up? That's awesome. A lot of training. It depends on how, well, I don't know. You've got to go through all the solo requirements. So there's the solo cross country time that's required before your check ride. There's the minimum number of solo hours that you must do before that. For me, I soloed very early at, I think I had it was like eight or 9 hours or so. But when I soloed, and then from there, I took my check ride at like 60 hours. So, I had about 50 more hours of training, but I also only had 9 hours when I soloed. So, it varies per student. I probably could have taken my check ride closer to 40, but like I said, I got in my own head, and then I took about 8 months off between that and my check ride. All right, Mike Alpha's here. Let's see. Chris, just a reminder on the idea to the intro video on ForeFlight for students. Your first night cross-country flight, you have to plan it. Any advice? Okay, thank you for that. And thank you for that super chat donation, Mike. I appreciate it very much. By the way, that's a thing you guys have available at the bottom if you want to get yours all highlighted like Mike's there and jump to the top of the list. You can do that, and it would be appreciated. Mike had a great idea, and I actually started this with my daughter in the plane the other day. We got a little intro for the video done. I'm going to do how I used ForeFlight throughout my training and as an low hour private pilot. You could get into debates. It's almost like political debates in this country with the ForeFlight for students versus no ForeFlight for students debate. And I think it's a silly debate. I don't think there's any question that it's a tremendously beneficial tool if you use it correctly and for the things that it's good at for situational awareness. But yes, I'm going to do a video for everybody, but Mike's suggestion on the usages of ForeFlight for people that aren't flying instrument flights, and how I think it works best, or what I'm using it for currently for me. But yes, I will do that. First night cross-country flight, have to plan it. Any advice? Yes, I definitely have advice. I'm assuming you're in a single-engine piston airplane. I don't fly at night. I did what I had to do for my required training. I don't intend to do much night flying, maybe just stay legally current and go up with an instructor here. I haven't flown at night for months. I planned a trip from my home airport to Pittsburgh. It's about 70 miles, or I don't remember how far it was. We followed Interstate 79 the entire way, basically. But I would just say stay very close to optional landing sites. That's the thing that scares me most about night flying, is that everything is a black hole. And if you have to go somewhere, if you don't have a well-lit road or some area that you can distinguish between trees and water and whatever, I would just say if you can plan a route that it may take you a little longer, but if you're near roads, I would say to do that. Hey, look who's here. Hi Nicole, thank you for checking in. Tyler Lucas, ladies and gentlemen, in the chat. I almost called you Tyler. Let me just take a minute. Tyler was my instructor. All of you know him from the channel. I almost called you today about this thing, and I was going to bring you in. We're going to do another one of these YouTube lives down the road where I'm going to rope Tyler into coming in and answering questions as an instructor. Tyler is very kind to me in there. The reality is, I was as successful as I was because he was my instructor. And I mean that. I think I've watched a lot of guys on YouTube, and there's a lot of great ones out there. I just think he's about as good as they come. So thank you for being here, buddy. Yes, and definitely I will take you up on that. We'll do one. Steve wants to know, what is your vision for this channel in the future? New series, multiple series? That's a good question, Tyler, Steve. I told you guys, Steve, we do some online gaming together, and we were talking about this before. One thing I am hoping to put together next year, I've actually been talking with another fairly prominent YouTuber pilot about the idea of a coast to coast in a 172 series. Like, fly from here to the East Coast and start from there and literally fly all the way across the country and back in 5-2 Lima. So that's one thing that we're potentially talking about for the late spring, early summer time period next year. And obviously videos of it would be a complete, that would be pretty much the whole rest of the year series probably. So I don't know, Steve. That's one thing maybe for next time. And certainly if I go down the road of the instrument rating, there'll be a whole new road to instrument series like I did for my private, for all that training. Thank you, Sean. Favorite part? Sean says, favorite part of your channel is your honesty and making mistakes. I learned so much from you as we all make mistakes. Very genuine. Thank you. Yep. And I told everybody early on, Tyler was part of this too. I never intended to cover anything up, and nothing was ever fake. I showed the good and the bad and the ugly because I found people who were doing the same thing online that helped me a lot when I started too. And I figure out if I'm going to make the mistakes anyway, I'm going to learn from them. And if somebody else can, that was always intentional. So I appreciate you noticing that. Henry Joe says, hello, just came in. What is your best tip before a private pilot check ride? Well, if I had it to do over again, I wouldn't freak myself out as much. I think I would also not, I don't think if I had to do over again, I would try to go out the morning of my check ride and do a bunch of landings and maneuvers, because you just psych yourself out with that too. I would say don't fly the day of, or maybe even the day before. And don't think of your DPE as somebody who's out to fail you, but as someone who is there to see you succeed. I think that mindset probably makes as much difference as anything. Oh, Gray Rabbit, this is a great question. Did you feel ready to solo when you soloed? My CFI started making noises about me soloing after my second time in the air. Currently have 4 hours of dual log so far, 2 hours tomorrow. Tyler, if Tyler's still in here too, he can talk about this too. I think I had 8 or 9 hours, like I said. In hindsight, I don't know that I would have done it again. I trust Tyler's judgment on it, but there's a lot of things you just don't know at that low of hours. If everything continued to go right, which it did for me, like with the airplane, with the conditions, with everything, it was fine. I think that there's a lot of variables that could happen that maybe I don't know that I would have responded to correctly, with an airplane mechanical problem, with a control surface problem, who knows? When are you ready for that though? Am I ready at 70 hours for all those things? Do you know? So I don't know. I was happy that I got to do it. I think it worked out good for me. I can't imagine for 6 hours, I don't know. Good question. I don't know that I have a good answer for it. Let's see. Hi, Small Town Flyer. I'm glad you're here. Let's see. Hester said, I did night flying with my dad again in the city after getting my private and racking up over 45 hours PIC, and it's starting to feel natural. Cool. Hi, Air Moose. Nicole says, what is the furthest you have gone since getting your private? By the way, Tyler is awesome. Yes, he is. I've watched the first few episodes several times. I cannot tell you how much that's helped. Thank you so much. Well, I appreciate that, Nicole. That's awesome. I saw your comments today on the egg timer. That was a pretty funny one. Let's see. Since here's a funny story. I had a longer cross country that I used for work while I was still a student, technically. My longest flight was to Lewisburg, West Virginia, which is where the Greenbrier Resort is located. I had to go down there to cover the PGA golf event last year, and I flew from Fairmont to the Greenbrier. and it was, oh shoot, I don't remember. I could look it up. It was, it was a couple hour flight. I mean, an hour and a half flight probably, to an airport I hadn't been to, with lots of challenges. There's a video about it when you get to that series. You should check it out. I had a lot of decision making that morning, and weird things happened. Like Clarksburg Approach couldn't give me flight following because they had a systems problem. The ceiling conditions weren't what was reported along my route of flight, so I had to make some decisions on altitudes to avoid clouds the whole way. The layer was questionable, whether I was going to be able to stay VFR as I needed to, and also be able to get into Lewisburg. I mean, there were a lot of really cool things in that trip and tons of learning experiences. But I haven't gone far, honestly, since I've only had my private since September 1st. Haven't taken any long trips. We're supposed to go to the Outer Banks this week. Had to cancel that because of some things. But hopefully over Thanksgiving we'll have a really cool long trip that we can share with you then. Oh man, you guys are piling up on me. Let's see. Best moment you've had as a private pilot, says Steve. First time my daughter got to go with me in the front seat, undoubtedly. She's so excited about the prospect of flying and even potentially learning to fly. She's every day wants to fly. I said, well, money is a factor still, can't fly every day, but she's very, very excited, and asks really good questions and totally understands. She gets the principles, the aerodynamic principle. I mean, I think she'll do very well if she wants to pursue it, and she says that she does. And so that was absolutely the best moment so far. How did you know you were ready for your check ride? Were there signs? Yeah, there were. I think it was when things started to make a little bit more sense and weren't every single decision wasn't based on a checklist or an airspeed or something. It was kind of like I don't know. Things started to just make a little bit more sense, if that makes sense. Just being able to do them and kind of understand why I was doing them or whatnot. So yeah, I'm still obviously figuring things out. Every flight still is a new adventure, and I learn something new every time. I don't want anybody to think I'm not ready to teach anybody how to fly, but it's things just started to slow down and make more sense, and I didn't have to think quite so much about everything. You look pretty relaxed when you're soloed. Once is enough for me. Yeah, you look pretty relaxed when you soloed. How are you feeling? With the first solo, when Tyler tricked me and said he had to go pee, I needed to take him back to the FBO, I was so oblivious to what we were doing there. It caught me so much by surprise that I didn't have time to even think about it. I don't remember, other than the video, I don't remember my solo, to be honest. It was such a blur to me now. So I was pretty freaked out then, but I will tell you that gets better. I told my daughter the other day when we went up, I said, I'm still apprehensive, because she was saying, look how much less scared I am now than I used to be. And I said, well, there's nothing wrong with being not scared, but it's probably a good discipline to be on the top of your game every time you fly. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of apprehension. It just means you're thinking about the risks that are involved and you're mitigating them. So I still get that way every time I fly, but it gets better and easier every single time I go up to the airport. Let's see. Yeah, Gray Rabbit, love the fall foliage. West Virginia is a beautiful place this time of year. Sam, hey Sam, what tips, advice would you give to a guy who just joined a flight club and is nervous about his checkout flight? That's a great question. It's funny you should ask that. I thought maybe you were going to say, what advice would you give to a commercial pilot who's going to be taking a CFI check ride at some point and who's nervous about doing that? Yeah, I don't know. I can't tell if you're just joking with me or not, because I don't know what to tell somebody to take a checkout flight. These things are easy. There's no syllabus. Just don't be an idiot and show that you understand how to fly an airplane, I guess. We just started a flight club. I've mentioned that. Sam, who's in the chat, is about to become a CFI as well. Way to go, Sam. And also is a member of our flying club. Hey, I'm going to keep running through these. but I'm going to run a random number generator real quick because I'm going to have to pull one of these out of the hat and go back through comments to pick a T-shirt winner. So if you are in this chat but haven't commented, and you don't have to ask a question or anything, if you haven't said anything yet, at least make a comment in this chat window so I can include you when I do a quick random number generator to who we're going to give away a Midlife Pilot T-shirt to. So I wanted to mention that. Let's see. Try not to miss anybody's questions here. AirVenture 2021. That's a great question. My daughter wants to do it. We've watched a ton of AirVenture videos at Oshkosh, and so she's trying to convince me that we need to go and camp on property at the airplane. We're not campers. I mean, we have camped, but we definitely aren't like the outdoors camping people. But she wants to do it, and so I don't know yet. It depends. It depends. It would be cool. I'd love to do it. Ramon, when are you flying the New York City VFR corridor? I'd love to do that. In fact, it's not New York City, but my first class B corridor trip was supposed to be my first ever the trip that we took with my buddy Kevin, who you saw the video for. The original flight plan for that day was Pittsburgh, up the river there, but the weather didn't cooperate at Pittsburgh, so we went to Elkins instead. But I'm not super intimidated by the concept of those kind of things. I've never been bothered at all by airspace and ATC and communication and everything, so I would totally be up for that. I would be up for that anytime if I can get up that way. It'd be awesome. I should have done it during COVID when people were doing like low approaches and touch and goes at like JFK and LaGuardia, which was crazy. Gray Rabbit, 43rd birthday. Awesome. Congratulations. My 43rd birthday is in 3 months. Kevin says the shirts look better in person. Yeah, he's seen me in a shirt. Good question. How'd you brief your first passenger as a private pilot? Any tips or recommendations? Yeah, I just pretty much by the book. I try to make them funny, the things that you're supposed to go over with everybody every time, like no smoking to the non-smoking friends that I have, and how to use their door. Fortunately, the guy I took for my first ever one, my buddy Kevin, was so chill about everything, and he was just naturally inquisitive about flying stuff, so I didn't have any problem talking to him completely honestly about why I might ask him to open his door if we in the event of an off airport landing. Now, I might have treated that differently if my first passenger had been someone who was not as comfortable or didn't want to talk about those kind of things, but it was really it was pretty straightforward, and I spent as much time talking about comfort things too. Like that's the stuff that you don't think about that they want to know, like how do you use the air vent to get their the air on them how they want, and that kind of stuff. Just common sense things too, like stay off the controls, that kind of stuff. Thank you, Saad. Thank you, David. I appreciate all of that. All right, let me run were you nervous taking your first few passengers? Easton Mafia wants to know, were you nervous? Yeah, sure. I was. My first passenger was my friend Kevin, and then my next passenger was my daughter. So obviously, not that I had any, I was any more apt to not worry about something bad happening to Kevin, but the pressure's on and it's your daughter. So it's, I'm nervous, but not any more so, I don't think, than I am any other time. Like I said, I still get anxious every time, and I think I probably will for a little while, and I think it's healthy, a certain level of that. But it adds a little bit of pressure because I'm also worried about how they're feeling and how they're doing. But I've been real fortunate so far with people going up so far. High wing, low wing, doesn't matter to me. I have so much more time disproportionately in those 172 than any low wing. So, I mean, I'm prone to say that right now, but I don't think I'm going to be super picky about it one way or another. If it means I can get my Mooney, then I'll say low wing probably. Awesome. about where I am with their PPL. Just got it. I've learned more by taking passengers on every flight than any lesson. Agreed. Agreed. All right, let me run this random number generator, and then I'm just going to count the individual commenters. There hasn't been any more than 30 of us in here, so I'm just going to do 1 through, let's see. This is non-official. If anybody's going to bust my chops about this T-shirt giveaway, y'all can get over that. So this may not be the most absolutely fair random number generation that has ever occurred. All right, so it's 12. So I'm going to take these names. 12. Well, I'm not giving Tyler a T-shirt, so we're going to run that again. I can give Tyler a T-shirt some other time. That is hilarious. I'll just give Tyler a T-shirt. All right, 18. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Tyler, 15, 16, 17, 18. So, Gray Rabbit, are you still here? If you're still here, tell me in the chat. If not, we'll do it again. And if Gray Rabbit's here, he's the random number generator, he or she. What else? This is your time, folks. I'm game to stay till 9. If you guys got more you want. Okay, cool. I will how am I going to get a hold of you? Do me a favor, send me an email, themidlifepilot@gmail.com. themidlifepilot@gmail.com. Just send me an email and I'll hook up with you and get you we'll get your size and I'll get your shirt shipped out to you. Also, patrons, if you're in here, certain tiers and above are getting T-shirts. Your stuff's all shipping tomorrow, but also all of you are getting vinyl decals and postcards and stuff. So that's all going out tomorrow for patrons. I thought about that. I actually went into a store. It was the weirdest feeling. I went into a store in this shirt and I thought, there's something, I don't know if I'm ever going to get used to. There's something weird about wearing a shirt about yourself. Oh, I got to tell you one other funny story. Tyler, you may have heard this. Sam definitely did because he was there. So Sam and Kevin Webb, who's another CFI in our club, took 52 Lima over to Carroll County for breakfast Saturday morning. There's a cool diner there, I guess. I need to go over there at some point. And as they were getting fuel on the ramp, getting ready to come back, somebody on the ramp came over to them and said, "Is that the airplane the Midlife Pilot flies?" And I thought to myself, now that's what you call like small town famous. Like that's like West Virginia so it's a small town and it's a super small community of aviation people. That's like small time, minor celebrity in the local area. JDO88, congrats on getting your license. I've watched your videos for a while. I'm an airline pilot now. Awesome. But before was an instructor. It's very satisfying to see your students get their licenses. Yeah, I'm sure that it is. My first student I put through is now my best friend, lifelong bond. That's fantastic. Very cool. Yeah, I think, what if I started younger? Maybe could have done something with that, but I'm going to enjoy my time. Just, this is what I really wanted to do, is be able to do this at this stage of life. And then, hopefully I'll get to retire at a decent age. And maybe by that point I'll be able to be an instructor and spend my retirement time teaching other people how to fly. I think that would be an awesome kind of way to wrap that up. All right. Well, if nobody has any other topics, I'm going to try to do these periodically. Oh, the Caribbean is here. Hey, Kenneth. That's awesome. We'll wrap this up for tonight. If you enjoyed this, we'll try to do these a little more often. Maybe we'll put some actual content together for these and do them again with a little bit more preparation and content. But I just enjoy talking about flying and seeing everybody. Sean says flying to Bluefield. Oh yeah, on Wednesday. I'll see how close your airport is. It's not terribly close. To you, you'll look it up when you see it. 4 Golf 7 is the identifier if you want to put it in. It's probably too far for a little a little side trip, but it depends on where you're coming from, I guess. All right. That's it for me. Thank you guys. And make sure to comment. Let me know if you like these. We'll try to do them again. And if you're interested, I'm not trying to sell everybody anything, but check out patreon.com/midlifepilot. See what's out there. If it's of any interest to you, we're trying to build that site up some more, build that community, and put out more content there even than here. And it's been a fun ride so far, and I really appreciate everybody's time watching the videos through the whole process and commenting and sharing. And anyway, it's been great getting to talk to some of you all, and I know we're all doing this kind of the same thing, and it's definitely a passion, and I appreciate all you guys have done for it. So take care, and we'll talk to you all real soon. Good night.